This is Dave with Taboo Customs. We have a new, very large customer project in the shop, and we wanted to do an initial walkthrough video and show you what that project is. Now, most of you probably somewhat recognize what I have behind me as a full-size Jeep. You'd be pretty close to correct. The distinction with this vehicle, though, is that this is actually an M715. So this is the military version of a full-size Jeep. These were built from 67 to 69, so only a few years, and about 30,000 of them produced. Most of them ended up going to South Korea at the time, and I believe they're still produced over in South Korea, even at this time. Now this here is specifically a 68. The customer actually found it in a field. You can kind of see that the reason that it had been parked is that they had broken off the right front wheel and actually had crushed into this, and they ended up parking it. And from there, it looks like it's sat for a long time. So what we'll do here is we'll actually take a walk around this Jeep as it sits. We'll take a look at it in its stock form, and then we will start talking about the modifications that we're going to make to this Jeep for this customer. So as we walk around, we're going to point out quite a few little details with this that the military changed from the stock version over to the military. For instance, the addition of these blackout lights for night driving, so you can drive with your headlights off and still slowly get around. The removal of what I believe this was the turn signal location in the stock full-size Jeep. They moved those out to the outer fender. They added these large flares to cover the military tires here, which we will end up probably replacing these fenders, so that ought to be interesting to try to recreate. And obviously, going in, and they've added a heavy-duty front bumper that's pretty generic and a heavy-duty back bumper that has a pintle on it. So there's a lot of small changes in this vehicle. Now, before we start walking around the vehicle, let's take a look at the engine bay and talk a little bit about the drivetrain. Now, originally when these came out in '67, I believe they had the Tornado overhead cam engine in them. This is not that engine. I think they had a lot of problems with those originally, so they swapped that out to what most of us would consider the standard Jeep engine that looks like an inline six-cylinder engine from the 70s. So you do have an inline six-cylinder engine that is followed by a manual transmission, a T98 four-speed manual transmission. From that, then you have a divorced NP200 transfer case. From there, that goes into a Dana 60 front axle, closed knuckle front axle, and a Dana 70 rear axle that actually has the pumpkin a little bit offset due to the use of that divorce transfer case and the options it had for different PTOs. So as you might expect from a military vehicle, a vehicle that's a Jeep and an older vehicle, the interior is pretty sparse. There's not a whole lot to talk about in here. Obviously it does have the military plates on here that we are still somewhat readable. We'll probably see if we can get some of those replaced. It would have had a large selector here to change the lights, but that's gone. A lot of the gauges are gone. There's a lot of things obviously that have kind of been pulled out of this vehicle. Also in here, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they also kept the batteries in here inside this box. Would have had a couple of batteries. This vehicle, I believe, used a 24 volt system. Since then, obviously, someone has switched it over to a 12 volt system, because I could see that they scabbed up a battery mount in the engine compartment. We'll end up going through and replacing all this. The seats, I think that seat might actually be somewhat of the original type design, which you understand that's probably not the most comfortable thing to ride in. This, who knows where this came out of, but most of the things in here is pretty well gone. Now as for the body and some of the changes they made, obviously we already mentioned the flares here. The top, I believe there were a few different options for tops with these. This is a hard top. I don't know if that was a stock option or if that was maybe something that was added later on. I know I've seen a lot of these with soft tops on them. And then obviously once we get past the cab and we get into the bed, that's where the military made a lot of changes. They didn't use the standard civilian bed, probably because they had a lot of different uses they wanted to use these for, from utility trucks carrying tools to troop carriers to cargo haulers. I mean, this kind of looks like the cargo bed with a lot of tie downs for your tarps and whatnot. It had a lot of tie downs for tools and picks and shovels probably. One interesting feature we noticed on this bed though, and if you know what this is for, let us know. You've got this little area here for storage that goes all the way through to the other side. So I don't know if that was storage for more shovels or I don't know, tent poles or what. Someone said store their rifles, but I can't imagine putting your rifles back there and then bouncing around and then not being available to you, to usually be up in the cab with the soldiers. But anyway, if you know what that is for, let us know in the comments, because we're interested to hear what it's for. Now we can start talking about the changes we're going to be making to this Jeep, and there's going to be a lot of them. Most everything on this vehicle is going to get touched and potentially changed. So with that, if you are a M715 lover and you would hate to see this thing cut up, you might not want to watch the rest of this video, because we are going to be changing a lot of it. Now the appearance will roughly stay the same, but most everything else is going to change. As far as the body will go in, we will end up replacing a lot of the body panels, the hood, this side, the fender, a lot of some rust repair in the rockers. We're not sure yet what we're going to do with the top, if we're going to do a soft top or a hard top. We've got to still figure that out. The one major change we are going to make to the body is we are going to replace the bed. The bed is actually in pretty good shape. However, with what we're going to do with the suspension, we'd end up having to cut it up quite a bit, and it's just going to be easier to make a new bed just like that, sell that bed off, so it's someone else that is restoring an M715 might be able to benefit from that, and it'll be a little bit easier on us overall. Now, the customer does want to build a vehicle that is more of a cruiser, more of a show vehicle, not going to really take it off-road. He said the most off-road he might do with it is maybe drive it through a field, but chances are he probably won't even do that. So we will be making some drastic changes to the suspension. The stock leaf spring suspension will obviously go. We'll be doing some coilovers. We'll be doing probably a 3 or 4 link in the front, and then we'll be doing a 4 link in the rear as well to make this ride quality much better for him on the road. So obviously on the inside we'll also be making a lot of changes. New seats, new pretty much everything. We'll be replacing probably the entire vehicle wiring harness. We'll be replacing all of the gauges. Chances are probably replacing the dash. We'll obviously try to make it still look like a flat dash, but be going to digital gauges, things like that. Probably build some sort of center console. We haven't fully fleshed all of that out, but obviously we'll be going through and doing a lot to the interior as well. So, as I mentioned, wait till the end to see one of the biggest, most expensive changes that we're going to make to this Jeep, and that is sitting right here on this pallet. This is a 7-liter Chevy engine, an LS7, out of a 2006 Corvette Z06. Now this specific engine has actually been completely rebuilt and gone through by a race shop down in Missouri. They also have rewired the entire harness and flashed the computer and added the fuses and relays and everything needed to make this a standalone engine ready to go and drop in this truck. Now behind this we were still debating a little bit. We're probably going to run a 4L80 or a 6L80. We haven't decided on that. We obviously have to make sure that whatever we're going to be putting behind this, from the transmission to the transfer case, can stand up to the horsepower that we're going to expect to be making with this engine. If you're interested in keeping up with this build, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We will be posting regular updates to this build to discuss all of the things we've done, all the changes we've made, and discuss why we went certain directions on this build. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can contact us through our website, taboocustoms.com. You'll also be able to find information on our website about this build as we move through it on our projects page there. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, contact us there through our contact page, Facebook, Instagram, or here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.